Greetings folks, not done a video for a while, so apologies for that. I've been doing plenty of hobbying, but I just haven't made any videos for it, which for a YouTuber is not that useful, is it? Anyway, there will be plenty of videos coming up, most notably some 20mm World War II stuff. I'm getting back into my old first love of gaming, rapid fire World War II stuff in 20mm. Plus I've been busy with plenty of bolt action World War II painting and modelling. But as you can see here, I'm pointing the camera at a bunch of medieval knights. Now, last year I did a lot of 100 Years War stuff on the channel, and towards the end of last year I started a couple of videos on Warhammer, or Oldhammer to be precise. Some friends of mine locally are reviving interest in 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and I started an Empire army using some genuine Games Workshop stuff and some Warlord Games Landsknechts to proxy as infantry. Well, I ended up, as I said in a recent video, deciding I wanted to do Landsknechts and didn't want to use them as proxy Empire, so I've started again. And whilst I can use these knights you can see here as sort of generic medieval knights and for games, what I'm going to do is use them as Bretonnians. So what we have here is the Perry Miniatures Warlord Games, Perry Miniatures Agincourt range, and over here we've got 15 knights that I'm going to use as Knights of the Realm. They could be 2 smaller units, or one big chunky one, because 15 is the maximum number you can have for Knights of the Realm. And then we've got some guys here with hand weapons rather than lances like those guys that I'm going to use as questing knights. And here is a Fireforge Games model I'm going to use as my Lord, or possibly even my Army Standard Bearer, and model up another one as the Lord. Anyhow, that's them. Now, as you can see, I've done a little bit different to my normal basing there, and I'll tell you a bit about that in a later section of this video. I just fancied a change. There's also another reason for the inspiration behind the glass varnish and everything, and I'll tell you all about that as this project unfolds. I just wanted to get this video out there so you can see one of the many things I've been doing, and I'll be doing exactly the same for some of my other projects shortly as well. But yes, here's what I'm going to be doing for my both Oldhammer and generically medieval stuff. These knights. I'll take you through a bit of a how-to on painting them in the next video with regards to these. Although, watch this space shortly for the next chunk of this video about this basing I've used. I fancy the change, and it's a technique I was admiring elsewhere, so just a second, I'll talk to you about it now. Right, a word about the basing. But why is he showing us a book all about Napoleonic war games if he wants to talk to us about basing for his medieval or Bretonnian knights? Well, basically, if I zoom in on the cover of this book, you can see that the basing shown on the models on the front is very similar to what I've done here. Now basically this is a book by Pete Morby, who is the proprietor of Elite Miniatures, those fabulous miniatures for predominantly Napoleonics, but a couple of other periods as well. And when buying some of his Napoleonics last year or the year before, I mentioned to him, is there a particular way he did his basing? And he said, well, it's all featured in this book. Clearly he was just trying to sell me the book. So I brought it, and if I flick to the right relevant spot, it's actually full of decent advice about modelling and stuff in Napoleonics, but I digress. As you can see, there's a bit of a guide on how to do it. It's worth it for lots of hobby tips in there, especially if you're into Napoleonics. But basically, just to grab one of these, let's have a look at this this one as an example. What it is, you first of all, obviously there's 2 different sorts going on here, so 2 separate little mixing tubs. In one, a bit of polyfiller or something similar, mixed up with PVA glue and perhaps a light sprinkling of fine sandal grit in there to give it a little bit of texture, but not very much at all. And into that you add some Tamiya light brown. I'll put the exact code number, the Tamiya code numbers, not Tamiya, sorry, what am I talking about? Vallejo, do excuse me. Vallejo light brown. And you mix that in with the PVA glue and the polyfiller. So you've got like this brown coloured paste. And then the reason for adding in the paint at that stage is if any of it ever chips off, you don't get that horrendously white, chipped plaster showing through. It still looks brown. Anyway, so you paste that on, and then once that's on, you then you get a sprinkling of sort of slightly less fine sand and a few of the bigger rocks like this, and just press it in like that with your finger. Now, whilst that's drying, you mix up in another mixing pot some Tamiya, I keep saying Tamiya, my apologies, Vallejo olive green. Again, I'll put the code number in the description below, with several different bits of, or grades of sand and grit and bits of gravel and so on, and a bit of PVA glue, but no polyfiller this time. Mix that up until it's quite a sort of a chunky paste, and then sort of dab it on. Let's have a look at another example as well. Yeah, leave it to dry overnight, and then coat the light brown section with light brown paint so that the bits of stuff you pressed in, texture you pressed in, is covered with the brown, and ditto on the green bit if anything didn't actually cover very well with the paint. And when that's dried, add I think it's desert yellow, or a lighter thing like deck tan or something like that, just as a lighter shade, and then dry brush over it, and then you end up with the finish you've got here. So yeah, it's a very quick précis of the relevant section from this book. And I'll do a more detailed how-to in a step-by-step video, but I'm quite pleased with how these well, generic medieval knights or Bretonnians, however I end up using them, have come out. And I'll leave you with a few turntable shots of it and do a how-to step-by-step for when I come to actually paint these guys.